we want to go to Mark Fancher, ACLU, who will report out on MySemi's priority project, changing emergency responses. Mark.
Well, thank you, Danny, and good evening to everybody. As horrible as the George Floyd murder was, as traumatic as it has been, the benefit of it is that for at least reasonable people, it has brought home the gravity of the police violence problem as it has impacted communities of color for generations. In fact, for as long as African people have been in the United States. And it creates an opportunity for us to begin in a serious way to look at the front end of the criminal system. We want to stop the flow of people from the streets into the prisons, and the gatekeepers very often are police officers, law enforcement. And the project that we're working on is still in development, but it's based on work that the ACLU has done over the last number of years in monitoring the misconduct of one particular police department in Southeast Michigan. This department is unlike many in that while there are departments that have some good officers and some good leadership, and what are the proverbial bad apples, this department is incorrigible from top to bottom. And what it presents is an opportunity to use it as a model, as a laboratory for what all police departments should be. In the wake of the discussions about police violence that's been, that has impacted communities of color, there have been any number of proposed reforms that should be not only available to, but should be required by most police departments. They run the gamut, all kinds of different things that have been suggested. Some of them that you hear all the time, including changing hiring practices and training and a number of different things. But the reality is that for many departments, to require different types of training for a particular police force and its personnel, with respect at least to the quote unquote bad officers, it's like putting lipstick on a pig. And so because the police culture is such that notwithstanding any new guidelines, policies, training, rules, whatever they may be, the culture still demands that the officer continue to confront communities of color in a particular way. And that's usually in a very aggressive way, a very hostile way, one where they feel compelled to quote unquote assert their authority and to use the least excuse to arrest people and to put them into the system. So what we want to do with this particular department is to wipe the slate clean with it through a number of different strategies that might include litigation, filing complaints with the Department of Justice, signing on to other pending litigation against this department to essentially clean house and rebuild. And this time to rebuild in a way that is consistent with the best ideas that those of us who understand and believe in progressive policing and emergency response would have it rebuilt. So we have begun to generate a number of different features that the new department might have. And it's not limited to these, but just to give you some examples, it would include eliminating the concept of a police department and instead having a Department of Public Safety, personnel that include more than just soldiers who are trained to shoot and arrest and grapple, and including people within the ranks who include people like mediators, mental health specialists, drug crisis experts, and others. Creating civilian teams that are trained to deal with minor neighborhood complaints, disputes between neighbors, noise complaints, and things like that, that really should not involve police officers who might be inclined to put people into the system. Complete overhaul of use of force policies that give highest priority to de-escalation and eliminates such obviously egregious tactics such as chokeholds. Enhanced and improved record-keeping practices that ensure maintenance of accurate records about demographics, racial and otherwise, and a number of other things that would create a different type of emergency response that is compatible with changes in the criminal system that we want to see. It doesn't fit neatly into a box of defunding the police or abolishing the police. It's just a new way of thinking about emergency response, which is a literal attempt to try and develop the best responses to emergencies. So that's where we're going.
And thank you, Mark.